Hello and welcome back to another video. This time I'm gonna be ranting about writing tips again. But this time I actually have a more cohesive list of writing advice that I like and writing advice that I don't like. There's pieces of writing advice out there that I just have a lot of trouble with. So I wanted to make this video to expand upon that and kind of the pieces of advice that I'm okay with versus the kinds that I just really struggle with. First of all, the generic general writing advice like show, don't tell, write what you know, that sort of writing advice is really good. Take that advice. Do it. The writing advice like read all the time, or advice like don't have every sentence in the same paragraph start with the same word. I had to learn that the hard way. Don't have it be the, or I, or whatever. Actually change up your sentences. Change the structure of your sentences, the flow of them, all that sort of stuff. That's good. The general technical writing advice that will help improve your writing and your skill, that stuff I have no problem with. You should be following that. But there's a bunch of other advice out there that I really kind of take an axe to because it has to do more with tonality and stylistic choices. That sort of advice, not that good. So to give you an example of the types of writing advice that I don't like, I'm gonna start this list off with something that I think is really just a personal choice, whether or not you follow it. But if you're a writer, then I'm sure you've seen these around everywhere. I know I see them on Pinterest all the time. It's the sheet of all these questions of things you should know about your characters. I have trouble with that, and again, this is probably just a personal choice, but I really don't care to fill out 100+ questions of all the information someone else thinks I should know about my characters. And I'm not saying that it's inherently bad, it just doesn't match my style and my preference when it comes to writing and crafting. When I look at those things you should know about your characters question sheets, I feel like it tempts me to get lost in all of it and all those details, and a lot of details that you don't need to know. You don't need to know a character's favorite color for them to be a character. Like, if I meet someone on the street, I'm not going to know their favorite color, but that doesn't stop them from being an intriguing character or person that I can interact with. You know, like for me, I would just get so lost in trying to come up with every possible detail about this character that I would end up losing interest in the story itself. For me, I like coming up with characters and the details that I want to know about them through a much more organic sense. It's something a lot more organic, something a lot truer to real life. When you meet someone new, you don't know everything about them right off the bat. You slowly learn about them as time goes on, and for me, that's the most fun, is getting to know my characters throughout the journey. And for me, the first draft is for that, is for figuring out about your character. Instead of knowing everything about your character, I think you learn more by taking this sort of vague, generic idea. I mean, obviously know the basics, but taking this idea of a character, some basic personality traits thrown together, taking that character and throwing them into situations where they're forced to make decisions. That, to me, is a lot more revealing about that character than 100 questions about a character. It's true of people. We learn a lot more about ourselves through the encounters that we have and the decisions we make from those situations and encounters. So for me, I would much rather just jump into the first draft, learn about my character along with potential readers of a first draft, and then maybe after the first draft I can sit down and answer some of those questions. But for me, it's just, I enjoy the organic way of learning about a character. And it honestly changes for me. Sometimes there's characters that I come up with that I just know, like I've known them my whole life. Other characters I'm like, I have no idea anything about you. That's gonna be a problem. But just throwing characters into situations and making them make decisions, for me, is a lot realer of a way to portray characters than the things you should know about each and every character. And if you did that for like every side character that your main character interacts with, oh my gosh, that's exhausting. I would waste years doing that, and I don't want to do that. Again, that's more of like a personal choice rather than like advice that is absolutely, you have to do this. So the rest of the pieces of advice on this list, I actually found a list of all this stuff, I think on Pinterest. I think it was a Tumblr post on Pinterest that I saw. And pretty much every single one of them I disagreed with. And a big reason why I don't like any of them is, again, it has to do with tonality and stylistic choices. So the first one is avoid alliteration always. I like alliteration. I think it's fun. I love lists, and I love lists especially if they are also alliterations at the same time. So, I mean, to me, it just comes across as a bit more poetic and lyrical, and it's fun to play around with words, and alliteration is one of those ways that we can play. So, I say, if your character really likes alliterations, or if you as the author really like that as your stylistic choice, go with it. Use alliteration. You do not have to avoid it always. Avoid cliches. I'm not actually going to go into this one because I have an entire video about cliches and how I feel about them. So if you're curious, go check out that video. But essentially, use cliches, write what you want. Parenthetical remarks are unnecessary. So any of the asides made in parentheses, you can take them out. And while there's a part of me that does agree, there's another part of me that really enjoys having this separate thought. Because think about the way you think. It's not always, and most of the time isn't, organized very coherently in this beautiful paragraph, topical paragraph. Sometimes you have these random thoughts that just come in. And I like having that additional bit of information tucked into this little parenthetical statement, and I don't know, to me it adds more character, adds a little bit of flavor to what you're writing. So, and again, it's just a stylistic choice, and I have trouble with someone telling me don't do that, especially when I myself really enjoy it. It's wrong to split an infinitive. Fun fact, splitting infinitives is a grammar rule that isn't actually a grammar rule. It's just something some old white dude in the past didn't like. He didn't like the sound of it, so he was like, hey, let's make this a rule. So he did. So if you want to split an infinitive, please do. You'll be pissing off an old white dude. Profanity sucks. This one, I feel like it's really outdated. Because the stuff I read has a lot of profanity, but I don't know if it's just the genres that I read or something, but this one I think really pertains to your characters. If the character you're writing curses, have them curse. If they don't have them curse. There's actually a series that I'm reading right now. There's barely any cursing in it, but there's one character who does curse every once in a while, and when he does, it draws your attention very much to what he's saying. It just makes it all the more emphasized. So saying that profanity sucks and like you should avoid it, use it. It's very cathartic, and it does drag attention to what they're saying. It's also, if your character curses like a sailor, have them curse like a sailor. I remember when I was younger, I refused to curse. I had to be the goody two-shoes. And as I got older, especially in my teen years, I was like, this character curses. I don't, this character does. And now those lines blur a little bit, but it's still the same concept of this character talks like this. Also, there are people in real life who curse. You probably know someone who curses like a sailor, and if you don't know anyone like that, you're probably the one who curses like a sailor. Eliminate one-word sentences. No. Analogies in writing are like feathers on a snake. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to use figurative language in creative writing anymore? I feel like that's like saying don't use metaphors or similes. Use metaphors and similes. They're good. This sort of stuff just like, it adds creativity to your writing. Do it. Avoid colloquialisms. Mark Twain would like to have a word with you. No rhetorical questions. Why not? Again, I feel like this is something that adds to your character. If your character is the kind who asks rhetorical questions, then have them ask rhetorical questions. It's also one of those, look at the narrator. If you're doing third person omniscient, then maybe avoid using rhetorical questions, but third person, first person, use rhetorical questions. Use the figurative language. Use language and devices at your disposal to enhance your writing. That's one of the joys of writing, is being able to look at all these rules and go, how can I break them creatively and in a way that suits me? A lot of the advice that I just went over has a lot to do with tonality and style choices. And for me, your style, your tone, that belongs to you as the writer. Those are your decisions to make. If you don't want to write alliterations, then don't write alliterations. But if you want to, then do. I think it's really just up to you. Also, tone especially changes depending on the story, on the character, on the narrator. If you're writing a story that has a darker tone to it, then you're going to choose darker words and words with more negative connotations. Whereas if you're writing a happier story, you're going to be using lighter words and flowery language. If your character is just a potty mouth, then go with that. If your narrator is super snarky, or if they're super poetic and they speak in haikus randomly, then go with it. That's one of the joys of writing, is just having fun. And for me, when I come across advice that tries to take away that style or that tone, things that should really be left up to the author, I get upset. Because it's like, this is a part of my style and my voice. This is something that I've worked so hard on, is finding my voice, finding how I speak in my writing, and limiting that for the sake of some other kind of writing that just isn't your forte. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna sacrifice my writing style to meet your expectations. If you don't like my writing, don't read it. It's as simple as that. It's kind of like the profanity sucks one. If you don't want to read profanity, read children's books. Seek out books that don't have that. Read stuff that you like. Also, write stuff that you want to write. Absolutely take from other people, take the things that they like, but make it your own. Have fun with it. I don't know how many times I have to say that. I think every single one of my writing videos has me saying stuff like, write what you want, screw everyone else. I think that's the theme of these videos. Anyway, I finally found at least something, a cohesive list of writing advice that I just don't like, and you can take it, you can leave it, whatever you want. I just say have fun with your writing, improve how you want to improve, and once you find your voice, stick with it, then improve the technical stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that bell button for notifications for every single time that I post. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye! Excuse me, I'm apparently very burpy today. Excuse me.